Hello everyone. In the last video, we built a base setup for React component library using Cursor, the editor. And in this video, we're going to continue on that same project and we're going to build a icon component. But in this video, the focus is going to be how to utilize Node.js to simplify your tasks and save you a lot of time using Node.js scripts. I use them all the time in work, and I think they can really save you time when you're doing some repetitive tasks and managing files and stuff like that. And specifically in this case, we're going to be managing SVG files. Now, this whole project, this idea for the video rather, came from my own experience working with these kind of projects with React component libraries, where you usually have a bunch of custom components and a bunch of custom icons. And managing all these icons can be a tedious task for either you or the designers who are working with these SVGs. So this is going to save you a little bit of time to do that. So what we're going to do in the video, first of all, is going to create a icon component that has support for multiple icon variants, that is different icons or SVGs, that also supports color as well as a class name prop. After that, we're going to write the script for processing these SVGs into those React components so that we don't have to manually write a component for each SVG. Next, we're going to write a script for generating an export file so we can export all these files, all these SVG React components in one collection file. And finally, we're going to write a script for rewriting the icon components in case we need to add any new props, essentially. So first, let's look at the dependencies we're going to be installing. We're going to use TSX for running our TypeScript files. We are using a module setup, so we're not going to be able to use Node in the same way that we usually or normally can. We're also going to need a Node HTML parser for parsing our SVG files as HTML code. So let's just jump right into it. If you haven't watched the previous video, it exists in in my YouTube library, so you can just check it out. This is the repository right here. I have created a new branch for this specific use case. So it's called icon components. So we're going to be using that. We're going to make sure that we have all the Node modules installed, just like we had before. And then we're going to install both TSX. pm install, I think I used everything in dev dependencies, correct? Yes. So pm install -d tsx and the Node HTML parser. These are the two dependencies we're going to need. Next, we're going to just create our new icon components. Let's call icon.tsx. This is going to be oh, sorry. No, this is not correct, actually. We're going to create, actually I created in the button. This is a great start. We're going to create called icons, actually. So instead of using components, even though it is components, you can call these assets. So we're going to create an assets folder. And in our assets, we're going to create icons. This is where all our icons are going to live. So our first icon is going to be, well, the first icon we have. Now I've taken the time to use and import a bunch of icons from Tableau. So credit goes to Tableau icons. They can be found, I think, yeah, here. They also have a library for React and stuff like that. So obviously you can just use the library from React, but this is just as a example of how it can look when you're working in a bigger organization, when you're working with design systems and icon libraries. So these are Tableau icons. Now, when you have these, you have 12 times 6, so that's, what is it, 72 icons. But when you usually work with libraries, you have like hundreds of icons. And if you want to import those into your library, either you're going to build a completely new project just for the icons, or you're just going to include them as resources in your project. It can become very tedious to export these icons. So what we're going to do is use Node to save up some time for this. But just for example case, let's export this first icon. So it's called icon123. Let's export it as an SVG to our desktop. Now that we have it in our desktop, Tableau icon-123, we can actually create our first component in icons, and I want to call it icon 123, right? I think that was it. Yeah, icon 123. And since this is an SVG, we're going to need this SVG code that we got from the export. But first of all, this is of course an icon. So we're going to, or a component rather, so we're going to do export default function icon123, right? and it's going to return our SVG code. Simple as that. But now that we've done that, we still need to support both a class name and a color, right? So what we want to do first is just remove the fixed width and height. We don't really need this because the view box tells us that the proportions that this SVG works with is 24 by 24. So it's always going to start from that proportion and it's going to scale up naturally to the container that it's within. But using a class name, you can easily, specify the width and size, overall size of the component. Next, if we scroll over, we can see that there is a stroke on this, and the stroke is set to black. We don't want it to be black always, so instead we can use the classic current color, which will adapt or inherit the color of the parent or the closest parent that has a set color, even if that is the body itself. So this is a classic icon component. Now we just want to add a class name, right? That's the one thing. So class name can be empty, and the class name is an empty string. Now we just set the class name to class name. There you go. So this is now an icon component that we can use, essentially. What we want to do next then, of course, is to have a file that we can export all these as we did in the previous video. Because if you check the main.ts file here, you can see that we have an import of our button along with our button props, and then we also export that, which means that we can easily import and export the icons just like our button component. And we can do this using a separate file as well. We can do it in our main file, but what that tends to happen then is that it clutters everything into one file, and the import is going to be one long string for one single resource. And I prefer to split up our resources based on which type of resource it is. So I would like to create one called icons.ts. And we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did in the main.ts file. So we're just going to import icon123 and then just export it. Just like that. Super simple. So if we now open up our playground, I think it's in our app. No, it's the page. Yes, we did a page. That's correct. We can now try this out. So we can import icon123 from lib/icons, and we could just throw that into our view to see that it actually renders. So we could just run pnpm playground, and that should kick up the local server by 173. And there you can see that we do have in effect our icon right here, which is just an SVG file. So you can see that it scales up proportionally based on the space that you have. We can also see that we have some errors here. Stroke width, did you mean stroke width, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that become kind of tedious when you're working with icons, is that React doesn't really use dash parameters or attributes. It uses, I don't remember if it's Pascal case or whatever it's called. So you have to change these up so that you don't get this error in the console. And when you're working with icons, this tends to happen. You get a lot of these different attributes that are dash instead of uppercase and no space. So that's something you have to manually add or fix in the files yourself, which is something we're going to fix using Node. So now that we've done one icon, we also have to do the other 71 icons, which can get kind of tedious. So this is where the Node script is going to help you. So we're going to go ahead and create a scripts folder, scripts, plural, and let's call this one icon converter.ts. And we're going to create a template file as well called icon template.tsx. This is going to be the template, obviously, that we're going to use for each icon. And we're going to use our icon we've created previously. Just paste that in right there. And then we're going to change up some things. So the first thing is that we can rename this icon to 123 to just name with capital letters. And instead of having a pure SVG in here, we can just do something like replace me. So what this does is that we can easily just import this as a string and then replace both name as well as replace me with whatever we want to be the contents of this file. Cool. Now that we've done that, we're going to do our first thing, which is going to be defining both file name and directory name. Now, what I'm talking about is file name and dir name or directory name. These are not defined in, actually Cursor's doing this for us right now, but this is not defined, unfortunately, in the module context, because the modules are browser-based, they're not Node.js. So you're gonna have to define these for yourself just for the utility of it. You can, of course, use both file name and dir name differently, or you can use the other variables, but we're going to use this just to make it easier for us. So we're going to allow, see if Cursor can actually do this for us. Yes, but we are missing one dependency, I see. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we're going to need to install, I actually missed types/node, just to make sure that Node actually knows what these dependencies are. Cool. So if we actually try this out, we can add a new script called icon converter, which just runs tsx lib/script/icon converter. So let's just run that. You can see that we have our full path to the file that we are running, as well as the containing folder that it's within. Nice. So that's exactly what we need when we're running the script. Okay, so now what we need is to actually import the icons into our project, right? So we need to export them first from Figma. So we're going to grab all these and we're just going to export them as SVGs. We're going to throw them into our desktop, right? We can replace the one that we already have. So now we have all these icons here, right? And they're all prefixed and named in a certain way. So we're going to have to fix that as well with the script. So let's just collect these in a folder. Let's call them icons, right? That's a simple name. And we're going to throw them into our component library. And in our lib folder, inside of our scripts, we have our icon converter. And in here, we can just throw in this. So now we have our icons right there. So let's define our icons directory as path, and then the directory name, as well as it's not going to be assets, it's going to be /icons, I think. So let's just log that to verify that we get the correct directory. Script/icons, correct. Cool. So now we got that, then we need to define an output directory, which is going to be actually not this. We're going to do out. But let's just create that real quick. So this is where all our icons is eventually going to end up, right? Cool. So now we have all our directories defined. We're going to create an asynchronous method so we can run async await code in here very easily. And inside, first of all, we're going to find all of our files. We're not going to use fsync. We are instead going to use promises. So file system has promises where we're going to be able to do read to dir. So we can await that promise. Now we got all the files. We can actually filter through all these to grab all of the SVG files, because we might end up finding some system-specific files like DS store from macOS or something like that. So if we log that, we can see we get all of our SVG files here. Cool. Next up, we're going to have to actually read all these files. But first, let's just grab our template file, actually. So our template is going to be read file from promises. It's not going to be dir name, it's going to be icons directory. So you can just do this icons directory /template, and it's not importing that, so we're just going to throw that right there. And just make sure that you do UTF-8. That means that it's going to read it as a classic formatted UTF-8 file, so we don't have to parse it or anything like that. So now you got the template. We can actually log that real quick to make sure that we see that we have the correct template. And that did not work for some reason. It's not the icons there. It's the scripts directory. There you go. So this is our template that we're going to use as a string currently. Great, now that we've done that, we're going to actually read each file, and then we're going to do all the parsing and stuff like that, right? So what we're going to do is just do a promise all, and inside of that promise all, we're going to map over each of our files. So first is going to be HTML, which is going to read our icons file. This is going to give us the whole file, just as a pure text, right? So we can log that just to make sure that we get everything as we want. It's going to throw out a bunch of SVGs, but here's one, for example. So that looks good. Great. Once we got that, we can actually convert that past an SVG. So now we can do parse from our HTML parser. Wants to do query selector, but we can just wait for that. Now you can see that we have our parsed HTML element, which currently is the SVG actually. Nice. So I think the first child node is going to be the SVG. Yes, exactly. So actually what this does is when it's going to do query selector SVG, it does that for us. So that's going to give us the actual SVG file. You can also do like child node 0, like the first child node, doesn't really matter. Let's just keep with this, it works. Next, we want to grab the inner HTML of this because we don't really need the actual SVG wrapper currently. So what we want to do is just grab the inner HTML. So let's just do inner HTML is equal to SVG child nodes dot map. So we're going to grab all the child nodes and do toString and then join them together. That's going to give us the okay. I'm not sure if this is going to work either, but I think it will, yeah. So it's the same thing really. We don't have to do the query selector. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, so now you can see that we actually get just the clean path or the contents of the SVGs. That's pretty much what we want, right? Next, what we want to do is actually find the hex colors, or like black or white or stuff like that. And we want to replace that with a current color, right? So currently what we do have is black for pretty much all of them, I'm pretty sure. So we just check like AB. You can see that on the right here, we have stroke being black. So for this case, you can just do while inner HTML includes. Sometimes it's a bit annoying with the autocomplete. So that's what we want to do, right? So we're going to replace all the occurrences of black with current color. But you can also do something like a regexp for matching the hex code for the color. So if you have a bunch of icons that have specific colors, like a darker black, like 121212, or something like that, you can actually do a while loop for that to replace all of the occurrences of that, which is perfectly fine. But we're just going to use this in this case. So if we check the log of inner HTML now, that should show us that we have current color on stroke instead of black. So that's perfectly fine for us. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. What we want to do next is actually grab our template. So let's do icon HTML string equals the template first of all. So we're going to grab the template. Next, we want to grab our template and remove anything from top to bottom. Now we don't have anything, but we might have dependencies here, for example, in the future. So this is something we can do then. But currently we don't really need to replace or remove anything. Sorry, we don't need to remove anything. We are actually going to replace something. So the icon HTML string is going to replace me with the inner HTML. Exactly. But what we don't have currently is our SVG, right? So we are going to need to add our SVG. Why we want to do this is because it saves us a lot of time. Since we have class name here, a view box and all that, we know that we don't really need to do anything with our actual SVG wrapper. All we care about is the actual contents of the SVG. So this saves us a little bit of time with that. And that's pretty much it. Now we need to just fix the name of the icon itself. So we can do that at the top actually. So const name equals, so now we got the actual file name. So first of all, let's just log the file name so you can see what the name of the file is. You can see that it's tabler-icon-something, right? So we want to remove the tabler-icon-, so we just have the name afterwards, so alarm snooze, for example. And what we want to do is, like, for example, let's say it's the tabler icon alarm snooze.svg. Effectively, the name that we want in the end should be icon alarm snooze.tsx. That's what we want, right? So what we need to do first is grab the name, and we can name it like icon. So let's do this plus. So we're going to concatenate on the file where we replace, first of all, .svg with nothing. So we remove the SVG. Next, we can split up the whole thing with a dash, since the name has dashes in between. Actually, sorry, first of all, let's replace tabler icon with nothing. And then, actually, let's do the new lines here. So we can split it up with dash, which makes alarm and snooze split up into alarm and snooze in an array. And then we can map through each word. And we can make it capitalized so that it's the first letter is a large letter or capitalized, essentially. And then we can join them together without anything in between. So that should give us the full name that we want for each icon. So icon alarm snooze. Actually, I can see that the index is actually used here, so let's ignore that index. It's our editor was a bit too nice for us. Icon alarm snooze filled, for example. So these are all the names fixed. So now we can do that. Why did that break all of a sudden? Interesting. Okay, cool. So now that we have the actual name, we can actually save our file to the directory that we want, which is the output dir. So we're going to have to import write file. So we write the file to our output directory with a new name, with the tsx as our file ending, and use our HTML string for that. That should effectively give us the icons. So I still have the log here. Cool, so if we check our output directory now, we should see all of our icons. We can have icon add filled, for example. We can see that, oh yeah, we see that the replace here is incorrect. It didn't use the double quotes. So we can fix that real quick. I don't know what the file name does there. So replace me actually has double quotes within it. So we replace the whole string. And then we can just remove the output directory and create it again. And then just do the full output. And now we can see that in effect that we do have the full icon here. Cool. Now the name is not fixed, so we need to fix that as well. So let's see, our template here, icon HTML string, replace name with the name of the component. We also want to replace any new lines. So we're going to grab our inner HTML here, and it's going to be replace. And we're going to use a regex here. I think it's this one, right? Yeah, this should be new line. Pretty sure. That should replace or remove every new line that exists. Yeah, and this should return a much cleaner HTML. Nice. So this looks really good now. I'm pretty happy with this. So we're gonna just grab all of these icons and put them into our icons folder. We can easily do that using Finder. You can also set, of course, the output directory to be, instead of being in the scripts, we can jump out into components, or sorry, into assets and icons, and then just run that again. We can remove output and run icon converter, and that's going to put all of our icons into our icons folder. Nicely done. Now we've got all of our icons in there. Next, we're going to fix a little script for generating the export that we're going to need for our icons.ts file, right? So first of all, we have this script directly inside our scripts folder. So we can create a new folder called icon converter, and we're going to move all of this inside of our icon converter. There you go. We can create a new folder called generate icon exports, and we can remove our icons folder as well because we don't really need that anymore. And in our generate icon exports, we can create just a generate icon exports PS file. So we're going to do pretty much the same thing as we did before. We're going to grab the dir name and the file name, just so we have those at hand, and grab pretty much all the same imports except for the file size or file system, sorry. And we're going to grab all icons first. So we can use the output directory, we can use this as our icons dir class directory. Then we're going to create our asynchronous function. So as we did before, we're going to first import redirectory from promises, and then we're going to read the directory, or the icons directory, grab all of our components from all the files that ends with .dsx. And since we've got all these components, you can see, oh, sorry, we need to add the script as well. Don't open the log file. Generate icon exports, run the script, and we got an error. Users scripts generate test cannot find module generate icon scripts.ts. Sorry. See now that I have messed up a little bit. There you go. And an error, no such files directory, lib scripts assets icons. Okay. I know what it is. We need to change this one as well as this one. There you go. So there's all of our icons. These are all the ones that we're going to import as well as export, so that we don't have to import all of these individually when we are actually using the icons in a consumer application for our component library, right? Now, first of all, we don't have to do this. Since we don't have anything else except for the default import or export, we can actually do export default as icon123 from this icon. And we can do that for all of our icons. Now, I'm sure that Cursor could do this manually for us if we asked it for it to do that, but we're going to write a little script for that anyway. So let's just do, export string equals empty string. Then components for each component, export string is export default as, and then do name equals component, place that with that. Name. From that. I think that should be good enough. Yep, that looks fine. Let's add some spaces here. Thank you. There you go. So that essentially just generates all of our exports for us. And if we want to, we can either just copy this, all of this, and paste that into our icons.ts file, or we can actually specify it. And I think that should be the correct path. Let's just log that first. Lib icons.ts. Yeah, that's correct. Nice. So then we can just grab await, write file, export file path to that. And if we just run the script, so open up this, we see that the path is incorrect, obviously. So we need to change the path here. So we can do lib/assets, I think. We don't need to do that. We can actually just use name. There you go. So now this is actually our icons. So if we open up this thing, we can now do any of our other icons, like icon affiliate, and then use that one instead of icon 1, 2, 3. And I stopped the playground. Run the playground, and there you go. So now we have all the icons there. Cool. So if you look at the README, we have now written a icon component. We have processed our SVGs into React components. We have written a script for generating the export file for all of our icon components. The final thing we're going to do is write a script for rewriting the icon components in case of adding new props. Specifically, what I want to do is use forward ref. Now, a forward ref in React is when you do you import forward ref from React. And you can do const icon to fa equals this, essentially. And also, what you'd want is to specify forwarded ref. And that would be equal to forward ref SVG element, like that. Now, this is what we want to do for all of our icon components, but we don't want to do it manually for all of them. So we're going to use the same methodology that we've did before, but we're going to reprocess all the icons for ourselves. So let's just revert that back, and we're going to create a new script called process icons, and process icons.ts. We're going to need a template file, just like the icon converter. So we're going to copy this one over, paste it in here. But in this case, we're going to change some things. So we're going to import this, the forward ref, as well as the forwarded ref from React. Then we're going to do const name equals forward ref. And we're going to let this do that for us. And we can see forwarded ref equals SVGs. And we're going to add our ref to ref on the SVG. I can see now that it actually wraps this for some reason. Forward ref should be, okay, I see. It should be that. Class name. Okay, I see what it did. I'm gonna do it this way. And we can actually, I think this looks a bit tedious, so we're going to do it this way. we're going to just replace this part instead. So this is what we want to do. We want to have all components have a ref, right? Process icons is going to do that for us. So we're going to grab pretty much this whole script, but we're going to fix it up a little bit. So we're going to grab our sync method and be able to run that. We're going to grab all our SVG files, but the icons directory that we're going to use is, of course, our assets. So that's the same as the output directory currently, and we're going to change the output to just an output within the same script, just to make sure that we don't overwrite our icons unintentionally. Nice. First of all, let's just read our files and grab our components. Icons directory, yep. Check that we got all the components when we run the script, and of course add the script to our package.json. Process icons. Close the playground, run process icons with an S. And we can see that we got all of our icon components. Great. Now we do that, we can just do components.map. And inside of our map, or around our map, we're going to await promise.all. There you go. So we're going to wait for all the processing for our components. We're going to read the file, so we don't have to, well, we can use path.join, sure, that's fine. Then we can see that we have the full export here. Now, when we do this, we want to actually jump into our icons, contents, and we want to grab the full SVG. We don't really care about this part, the SVG. We can actually do it this way, right? Or, sorry, we should actually do it this way. So what we want is the actual path, right? So what we can look for, since the template generated this, is to find this part, the XMLNS. That is the first part of our string that we want to pull out. So let's use that as our first index. So let's just log content.substring, then just content index of. And then do plus 25, plus 30, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's 33, isn't it 33? So actually 35. So the index is going to start here, so we're going to have to move it over to this end, right? Plus 35, and then the content index of where the SVG stops. So let's just do that. So what we're doing is we're pulling out everything inside of our SVG, that is our path. And then we're going to use that and paste it into the new template, like we did before. So we can run our script just to check. We can see here is a path, there's a path, here is a long path, so on. So it looks like it works. We can actually do console log content and do a little split here just to make sure that we see the differences between the icons. So you can see here is the SVG, full SVG, and we grab the actual path for ourselves. So it works, looks good. And we can grab our template, which we didn't do first. So there's our template. Please me. It's actually, let's see, this is our current icon template, yeah. The replace me looks like this. So let's use, we can do escape string. That, with the SVG contents, right? And then we're going to replace name. Actually, we're going to have to use a while loop. While includes name. We're going to replace the name in here. So then we can just log the string that we generate with that. And we can see we have an import of a forward ref with a forwarded ref as well. Icon alarm snooze field with a forwarded ref with a class name, and the ref, and then we have the SVG and then a path inside of that. So looks really good. The thing we don't do is replace or remove the white space that we did before. So we're going to grab that over here, paste it in here, use icon HTML string instead. And now it should be, oh. Maybe we can, or we should do it over here. Yeah, we should do it there. Cool. So we should do it on the SVG contents, the actual SVG file that we're reading, or the component file that we're reading. So these are the new icons that we're generating. That's it. So now we can just write that file to our output directory with the component name attached to that, and we use the new icon HTML string. So run the script, we can check our output folder and see we have our new icons, icon 2FA, icon 3D cube sphere, and so on and so forth. Great, so we can remove our output directory. You can change the output as well from output to be assets/icons. So we're going to override our current icons with the new icons. Scary stuff. Process icons. We can see in our icons, now we have our new icons. So if we go back to our playground, this thing still completes. We can see that we actually have a ref for it. So if we run playground, still renders just fine. What we can do is we can create a ref with a React. It's not that, it's SVG element. You don't have to pass null at all. And we grab the ref, set it to icon ref. And then we can just do log iconref.current. Check. Oh, I completely forgot this. That we can fix. We can see that it's actually null currently. So if we open up this one, we see the ref is there. We passed the ref from forwarded ref, so it should work. So let's see if we can use a use effect instead. Yeah, so now that it actually changes, we can see that the ref actually is there. Nice. So now that we see that I actually forgot about the stroke width and all those, we can actually use this as a little fix in the process script to fix these real quick before we finish up the video. So in our process icons, we want to go into our icon HTML string here, and if I want to tab here, Jesus cursor, sometimes you're not helping me. Stroke, what was it? Stroke line join with stroke, something like that. And then you do the same thing for like line cap, for example. And stroke width as well. Now you can just run the same script again, process icons, run the playground, re-render, And we can see, it didn't do that. Interesting. Let's check it again. We have the playground. This file. We're importing this one. Oh, interesting. So it's not doing it. Maybe we should actually let's fix this up a little bit because it looks a little bad. Let's do it over here then. Let's process this up here. Okay. Run the process icons again. Open up icon affiliate. And now it works. Cool. So run playground. Yeah. Nice. Great. And that's pretty much it. That's how you can build an icon component very easily. And how you can use Node.js to write scripts to do stuff for you. Of course, part of it can be done by Cursor, and in the future you're probably going to do it with Cursor, but this is how you can utilize Node.js to speed up your workflow and create scripts that you can easily run in the future when you're adding new icons to your icon library, that you can just do this automatically. This can also, of course, be added to any automatic actions or scripts that you have in your process. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave any comments for feedback if you have any other ideas for things we can do with this component library, and I look forward to hearing back from you. So again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.